The stars looked different from the bridge of the Resilience. Captain Jiwon Park stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the swirling colors of faster-than-light travel paint the viewscreen. In 3 hours, they would drop back into normal space near Velthura Prime. In 3 hours, everything humanity knew about its place in the universe might change forever. "You should try to sleep," Dr. Mary Cho said from behind him. The xenolinguist had been his friend since the academy, back when neither of them imagined they would be traveling to meet an alien empire. "We'll need you sharp for the ceremony." Jiwon shook his head without turning. "How can I sleep? We're about to meet another civilization that spans 12 star systems. They've been traveling between worlds for longer than humans have had written language." He paused, finally glancing at Mireille. "And somehow, they think we're worthy of this honor. It doesn't make sense." Mireille moved to stand beside him, her reflection ghostly in the viewscreen. The Velthurans have only performed this unveiling ceremony 3 times in their recorded history. Each time, it marked a significant alliance. Maybe they see something in us we don't see in ourselves. "Or maybe it's a test," Commander Dio Kim said, entering the bridge with his usual heavy footsteps. The security chief never trusted anything he couldn't shoot or shield against. "The government thinks this might be a way to measure our reactions. See if we're truly ready for galactic politics." "Always the optimist," Mireille muttered. Daeho shrugged. "I'm paid to be paranoid. Speaking of which, Captain, I finished the security assessment of the delegation. Everyone's clean, but I'm still not comfortable with how little we know about Velthuran royal protocols. What if we accidentally insult them?" Jiwon had been thinking about that same question for 3 weeks. Earth's government had given him strict orders. Observe everything. Assess their military capabilities. Show respect but never weakness, and above all, do not make any commitments without approval from home. It was a politician's way of saying they wanted all the benefits of first contact with none of the risks. "We follow their lead," Jiwon said finally. "We've studied what little information they've shared. We know the basics of their language, their customs. Beyond that, we adapt." "Adapt," Daeho repeated, tasting the word. "That's very human of us." The comment made Jiwon smile despite his nerves. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 8 years ago. In that time, they'd explored 26 star systems, established 4 colonies, and fought a brutal war against the Crevith swarm. The insectoid species had come from deep space, attacking human settlements with ruthless efficiency. Military analysts had predicted humanity would lose. The Crevith were too many, too coordinated, too alien to fight using conventional tactics. But humans had won, not through superior technology or numbers, but through sheer stubborn refusal to surrender. When the Creveth adapted to human strategies, humans adapted faster. When the Creveth thought they understood human psychology, humans did something unpredictable. The war had cost millions of lives and nearly bankrupted Earth's government, but humanity had survived. That was 2 years ago. The message from the Velthuran Empire had arrived 6 months later. An invitation, an honor, a mystery. Dropping out of FTL in 2 minutes, called Hana Lee from the navigation station. The young communications officer had barely contained her excitement for the entire journey. "I'm detecting multiple signals on standard frequencies. They're already broadcasting welcome messages in 17 languages, including English." "Put it on speaker," Jiwon ordered. A voice filled the bridge, melodic and strange, speaking English with an accent that sounded like water flowing over stones. "Human vessel Resilience, you are welcome to the Velthura system. Proceed to the designated coordinates. May this meeting be the first of many peaceful exchanges." "They sound almost nervous," Mireille observed. Jiwon thought the same thing but did not say it. The view screen shifted as the Resilience dropped back into normal space, and suddenly, the alien system surrounded them. Velthera Prime hung in the distance, a world of deep purples and blues orbiting a dim red sun. Around it, orbital stations glittered like jewels. Dozens of ships moved in perfect formation, their designs elegant and organic, as if they had been grown rather than built. "Captain, I'm reading energy signatures from at least 40 vessels," Deho said, his hand moving instinctively toward his sidearm. "Most are civilian, but 6 are definitely military class. Heavy cruisers, I think." "Calm down, Commander," G1 said. "They're here to honor us, not attack us. An honor guard can become an attack fleet very quickly." He was not wrong, but G1 refused to let paranoia guide this mission. "Hannah, send our acknowledgement. Request permission to approach the planet." The next hour passed in careful maneuvering. The Resilience was escorted by 2 Veltheran ships that dwarfed the human vessel. G1 studied them carefully. Their hulls seemed to shimmer with that same iridescent quality Myray had described in the limited images they had seen of Voltheran people. No visible weapons, but he suspected they were integrated into the hull structure itself. As they descended through the atmosphere, the capital city came into view. G1 heard Hannah gasp. Even Deho looked impressed. The city stretched for hundreds of kilometers, but instead of the metal and glass towers of Earth's cities, this place seemed alive. Buildings curved and spiraled upward, glowing with soft bioluminescence. Gardens and waterways connected everything, creating a cityscape that looked more like a forest than a metropolis. "It's beautiful," Myray whispered. "It's a statement," Deho countered. "They're showing us how far ahead of us they are." G1 considered both perspectives. The Veltherans had achieved things humanity was still dreaming about. Biological architecture, perfect integration with their environment, a civilization that had endured for thousands of years. Yet they had invited humans here. They had called humanity worthy. Why? The Resilience landed on a platform that seemed to grow from the ground itself. Through the view screen, G1 could see hundreds of Veltherans gathering. They were tall, taller than any human, with skin that shifted in subtle patterns of color. Their large eyes reflected the dim red light of their sun. They wore robes that seemed to move on their own, flowing like liquid. "Final equipment check," G1 ordered. "We meet them in 10 minutes. The delegation consisted of 12 people. Jaiwan as lead diplomat, Myray as chief xenolinguist, Deho and 4 security personnel, 2 scientists, and 2 junior diplomats taking notes. They had rehearsed this moment countless times, but as the airlock opened and the alien atmosphere flowed in perfectly breathable, the Veltherans had assured them. G1 felt his heart hammering. A Veltheran stepped forward, taller than the others, wearing robes that shimmered with gold patterns. When he spoke, his voice resonated deep and ancient. "Captain G1 Park of Earth, I am Chancellor Verum, advisor to Emperor Thales. On behalf of the Veltheran Empire, we welcome you to our home. You have traveled far. You have proven yourselves worthy. Tonight, you will witness something rare and sacred. Tonight, you will understand why we have called you here." G1 bowed, exactly as they had practiced. "Chancellor, we are honored. Humanity accepts your invitation with gratitude and respect." Verum's expression was hard to read, but something in his large eyes seemed calculating, almost suspicious. "Come, the ceremony begins at sunset. The Grand Hall awaits, and with it, revelations that will change both our peoples." As they walked through the alien city, surrounded by Veltherans who watched them with intense curiosity, Jaiwan could not shake the feeling that they were walking into something far more complex than a simple diplomatic ceremony. Whatever happened tonight would matter. He could feel it in his bones, the same instinct that kept him alive during the Krevith War. Behind him, Myray leaned close and whispered, Did you see the way Chancellor Verim looked at us? He's not happy we're here. I noticed, Jiwan replied quietly. But someone wanted us here badly enough to override his objections. The question is who and why. The sun was setting on an alien world, painting the sky in shades humans had never seen. Somewhere ahead, in a grand hall, a princess waited behind a veil. And somehow, Jiwan knew her reaction to seeing humans for the first time would determine the fate of both their species. The Grand Hall of Infinite Reflection lived up to its name. Jiwan had seen impressive architecture on Earth, had visited the orbital museums above Mars, but nothing compared to this. The ceiling arched hundreds of meters overhead, covered in what looked like living crystal that pulsed with gentle light. The walls were not walls at all, but cascading waterfalls that somehow defied gravity, flowing upward in impossible spirals. Thousands of Veltherans filled the space, their iridescent skin creating a sea of shifting colors. "Stay close," Deho muttered to the security team. His hand rested on his sidearm, hidden beneath his formal uniform. "Something feels wrong about this." Myray shot him a warning look. "Everything feels wrong because we've never done this before." Try to look diplomatic, not paranoid. But Jiwan understood what Deho meant. The Veltherans watched them with an intensity that went beyond curiosity. Some looked hopeful. Others looked angry. A few looked afraid. This was not just a ceremony. This was something that mattered deeply to these people, and the humans were walking into it blind. Chancellor Verim led them to a raised platform near the center of the hall. From there, they could see everything. The Veltheran citizens arranged themselves in perfect circles, radiating outward. Their silence was complete, almost oppressive. Then a deep sound resonated through the hall, like a bell made from starlight. The crowd parted. Emperor Thalas entered, and Jiwan finally understood what true alien majesty looked like. The Emperor was ancient. His skin had shifted from the usual iridescent patterns to something that looked like the night sky itself, stars twinkling across his flesh. He moved slowly, deliberately, and every Veltheran in the hall touched their foreheads in reverence. Behind the Emperor walked a smaller figure, completely covered in white veils that seemed to move like mist. Princess Ariam, the heir to an empire that had existed for thousands of years, and she was completely hidden from view. Thalas stopped at the center of the hall. When he spoke, his voice carried without amplification, resonating in a way that made Jiwan's bones vibrate. "We gathered tonight to honor tradition. 3 times in our recorded history, we have performed the unveiling of the heir before a visiting species. 3 times, those species became our most trusted allies." He paused, those ancient eyes turning toward the human delegation. "Tonight we honor the humans of Earth with this sacred ceremony." Murmurs rippled through the Veltheran crowd. Not all of them sounded pleased. The Emperor continued, "You wonder why. Why would we honor such a young species? A species that has barely touched the stars, that fights with primitive weapons, that lives such desperately short lives." He gestured to a massive display that materialized in the air above them. "Let me show you." The display showed space. A fleet of insectoid ships, their design sharp and cruel. The Kreva swarm. Jiwan's jaw tightened. He had fought those creatures. He had watched them tear through human defenses, had seen colonies burn. 70 years ago, Emperor Thalas said, the Krevath came to our territory. We fought them with our superior technology, our advanced tactics, our thousands of years of military wisdom. The display showed Veltheran ships engaging the swarm. Beautiful, elegant vessels moving in perfect formation. We lost. Shocked sounds filled the hall. Apparently, this was not common knowledge among all Veltherans. We lost, the Emperor repeated, because we fought as we have always fought. With precision. With protocol. with the tactics of immortals who believe they have infinite time to achieve victory. The display shifted, showing Veltharan ships retreating, 3 entire star systems falling to the crevasse. We abandoned 3 systems. Millions of our people fled. The crevasse were too unpredictable, too willing to sacrifice themselves, too alien for us to comprehend. The display changed again. Now it showed human ships. Smaller, uglier, cobbled together from salvaged parts and desperate engineering. Jiwan recognized the Battle of Kepler Station. He had been there, commanding a destroyer that should not have survived. Then we watched the humans face the same enemy, Emperor Thalas said. We watched, expecting them to fall even faster than we did. They were so new to space, so technologically inferior, so fragile. The Emperor's voice changed, filling with something that might have been wonder. But they did not fall. The display showed human ships doing things no sane commander would attempt. Ramming maneuvers. Using debris as weapons. Detonating their own reactors to take crevasse vessels with them. It showed human soldiers fighting in hand-to-hand combat against creatures 3 times their size. It showed colony ships being defended by civilian vessels armed with nothing but mining equipment. They fought, the Emperor said quietly, like the universe itself depended on it. Because for them, it did. Every battle might be their last. Every soldier knew they might die. So they fought with a desperation, a creativity, a beautiful recklessness that we had forgotten existed. He turned to face Jiwan directly. You won because you fight like mortals. Because you know your time is limited. Because you refuse to surrender, even when surrender is logical. The hall was completely silent now. That is why you are worthy, Emperor Thalas declared. Because you have something we lost long ago. You remember how to truly fight. How to truly risk. How to truly live, even when facing death. The Emperor gestured, and the veils around Princess Ariam began to dissolve, turning to mist that floated upward. Jiwan found himself holding his breath. This was it. The moment that would define this encounter. The last veil fell away. Princess Ariam stood revealed, and Jiwan felt his breath catch. She was beautiful in an alien way, her skin shifting through patterns of deep purple and silver. Her large eyes were the color of amethyst, reflecting the hall's light. She wore robes that seemed made of starlight itself. But what struck Jiwan most was her expression. She was looking directly at him, not at the delegation as a whole, at him specifically. And then she smiled. The sound that went through the Veltharan crowd was like a wave crashing. Gasps, shocked exclamations. Even Chancellor Virum stumbled backward, his eyes wide with disbelief. Jiwan did not understand what was happening. He glanced at Mireille, who looked equally confused. But Princess Ariam's smile was not diplomatic or formal. It was genuine. It was warm. It was relieved. It was hopeful. She looked at Jiwan like he was the answer to a question she had been asking her entire life. Then she did something that made the hall erupt in chaos. She stepped down from her platform, walked past her father, past the shocked chancellor, and approached the human delegation directly. Protocol was clearly being shattered. Dao's hand went to his weapon, but Jiwan grabbed his wrist, shaking his head. Princess Ariam stopped 3 meters from Jiwan. When she spoke, it was in perfect English, her voice clear and confident. Your kind fights like the universe itself depends on it. Because for you, it always does. Jiwan did not know how to respond. This was beyond anything they had prepared for. My princess, Chancellor Virum said, rushing forward, this is highly irregular. The ceremony has protocols. The ceremony is about truth, Ariam interrupted, not taking her eyes off Jiwan. In our tradition, the heir's first reaction upon unveiling reveals their prophetic judgment about the future relationship with the visiting species. She looked around at the assembled Veltherans, her voice rising. I smiled because I see hope. I see salvation. I see a people who remember what we have forgotten. You see primitive barbarians, Verum hissed, who got lucky against an enemy we failed to defeat. This proves nothing except. It proves everything, Ariam said sharply. She turned back to Jiwan. Captain Park, do you know why we truly invited you here? Jiwan shook his head slowly. Because we are dying, Ariam said simply. Not from war. Not from disease. From stagnation. From being so afraid of change that we have stopped living. We need what you have. We need to remember how to fight like mortals again. Emperor Thales stepped forward, his expression unreadable. Ariam speaks truth, though perhaps not at the time or place I would have chosen. He looked at Jiwan with ancient, tired eyes. Captain Park, this ceremony was not just to honor you. It was a test for us. To see if my daughter, who will one day rule this empire, could see past our pride and recognize that we need help. Help with what? Jiwan asked, finding his voice. With surviving, Ariam said. There is a threat coming. There is a threat coming. Something worse than the Krevoth. Something that will destroy us if we face it the way we have faced everything else, with ancient tactics and immortal patience. She took a step closer. I need to speak with you privately. Tonight. There are things my father's court does not know. Things they would never approve of. Chancellor Verum looked apoplectic. Your Highness, this is absolutely unacceptable. These humans cannot be trusted with. That will be enough, Chancellor, Emperor Thalis said wearily. My daughter has revealed her judgment. The ceremony is complete. He turned to Jiwan. Captain Park, you and your delegation will be given quarters in the royal palace. Tonight, my daughter will explain what we truly need from humanity. I suggest you listen carefully. The future of both our species may depend on what you decide. As the hall erupted in arguments between different Veltheran factions, Jiwan stood frozen, trying to process what had just happened. They had come here thinking it was a simple diplomatic ceremony. Instead, they had walked into a civilization on the brink. The royal palace quarters were more luxurious than anything Jiwan had experienced. The walls shifted colors based on mood. The furniture adjusted itself automatically, and the windows offered a view of the capital city stretching to the horizon under 3 moons. But Jiwan could not enjoy any of it. He paced, waiting for whatever private meeting Princess Ariam had mentioned. You need to calm down, Myra said from where she sat reviewing xenolinguistic data. You're making me nervous. Good, Deho said. He was checking the room for surveillance devices for the 3rd time. We should all be nervous. This entire situation is wrong. Did you see how angry half that crowd looked? We're sitting in the middle of a political crisis we don't understand. A soft chime sounded. All 3 of them turned toward the door. It opened to reveal Princess Ariam, now wearing simpler robes, accompanied by 3 younger Veltherans. No guards, no attendants. Just her and what looked like trusted allies. Thank you for seeing me, Captain Park, she said, entering quickly. One of her companions sealed the door behind them and activated a device that hummed quietly. This room is now secure from monitoring. We have perhaps an hour before my father's advisors realize I'm gone. You're sneaking around in your own palace? Jiwan asked. I have been sneaking around for years, Ariam replied. It is the only way to have honest conversations anymore. She gestured to her companions. This is Counselor Talon, Engineer Kira, and Admiral Soren. They are part of what we call the Reform Movement. People who believe the Empire must change or die. Die? Myray leaned forward. Your people seem incredibly advanced. How can you be dying? Ariam's expression turned sad. Let me tell you a story, Dr. Cho. 5,000 years ago, my ancestors achieved something remarkable. They discovered how to extend life indefinitely. The ruling class, the nobles, the military commanders, they all became biologically immortal. At first, it seemed like a gift from the universe itself. She walked to the window, looking out at her city. But immortality has a cost that no one anticipated. When you know you have infinite time, you stop taking risks. Why rush? Why try something dangerous when you can wait a few centuries and let someone else solve the problem? Our greatest minds stopped pushing boundaries. Our military stopped innovating. Our culture became obsessed with preserving what we had rather than discovering what we could become. Admiral Soren stepped forward. He was older than the others. His skin patterns faded like old paint. I have been a fleet commander for 300 years, Captain Park. In that time, our tactics have not changed once. Not once. We fight using strategies developed 2,000 years ago because no one dares suggest anything new. To innovate is to admit the old ways might be flawed. That's why you lost to the Kreveth, Jiwan said, understanding dawning. Exactly, Ariam confirmed. The Kreviva were unpredictable, chaotic, willing to sacrifice everything for victory. We had better weapons, faster ships, superior numbers. But we could not adapt quickly enough. Every time they changed tactics. It took us months to respond because any change had to be debated, analyzed, approved by councils of people who had forgotten what urgency feels like. Engineer Kara activated a holographic display. It showed star charts with various colored markers. This is the current situation. Our empire controls 12 systems, but we are stretched thin. Resources are declining. Our colonies are unhappy. And now there is a new threat emerging. The display shifted to show sensor readings of something massive moving through dark space. The readings were fragmentary, but what Jiwan could see made his blood run cold. Whatever it was huge and moving with purpose. The Ashran Collective, Ariam said quietly. We detected them 6 months ago. They are a machine intelligence, possibly artificial, possibly organic minds uploaded into mechanical bodies. We do not know their origin or their full capabilities. What we do know is that they have already destroyed 4 civilizations that we were monitoring. 4? Marie's voice was barely a whisper. They move slowly but methodically, Counselor Tellin explained. They study their targets, learn everything about them, then attack with perfect efficiency. Based on our projections, they will reach our territory in approximately 18 months. They will reach human space 6 months after that. Jiwan felt the weight of what they were telling him. You want our help fighting them? No, Ariam said, surprising him. We want something more difficult than that. We want you to teach us how to fight like you do. How to think like mortals. How to be desperate and creative and willing to risk everything. She moved closer to him, her amethyst eyes intense. My father invited you here hoping you would just share tactical data. A simple exchange of information. But I need more than that. I need to transform how my people think about war, about risk, about life itself. That's insane, Deho said bluntly. You're asking us to fundamentally change your culture. Even if we wanted to, even if we could, that would take decades. We do not have decades, Ariam said. We have months before my father's advisors, people like Chancellor Verum, shut down any possibility of real change. They are terrified of what contact with humans might do to our society. They want to take your tactical data and send you home. Then face the Ashran using the same failed methods we have always used. And you'll lose, Jiwan said. Yes, Ariam admitted. We will lose. Our empire will fall. And then the Ashram will come for you, and you will face them alone, without the resources or infrastructure to survive. Humanity might be innovative, Captain, but you are still young, still small. You need us as much as we need you. The room fell silent. Jiwan's mind raced through the implications. What Ariam was suggesting was dangerous on multiple levels. Sharing military doctrine with an alien species was risky enough. But trying to fundamentally change how they thought, that could backfire in 100 different ways. "There's something you're not telling us," Myre said, her linguist ear catching something in Ariam's tone. "What is it?" Ariam exchanged glances with her companions. "Chancellor Verum and his faction are planning to arrest me. Tonight, probably. They have been monitoring my communications, tracking my movements. They know I want to make radical changes, and they will not allow it. They consider me compromised by human influence." "Compromised?" Jiwan asked. "We just met you today. They believe my reaction at the unveiling was a sign of weakness," Ariam explained. "That I have been seduced by the idea of mortality, of human recklessness. They think I will destroy our empire, trying to remake it in humanity's image." She straightened her shoulders. "They are not entirely wrong. I do want to remake our empire. Because if we stay as we are, there will be no empire left to preserve." Suddenly, alarms began blaring. Admiral Soren cursed in his own language and checked a small device. "Imperial guards are moving toward this section. Multiple units. They are coming for the princess." "I knew this might happen," Ariam said, her voice steady despite the danger. "Captain Park, I must ask you something that may determine the fate of both our peoples. Will you grant me asylum aboard your ship?" Jiwan stared at her, shocked. "You're asking to defect?" "I am asking for sanctuary while we figure out how to save both our civilizations," Ariam corrected. "If I stay here, I will be arrested, possibly executed for treason. My father will not be able to protect me from the conservative faction. But if I come with you, if I can show my people what humanity truly is, maybe I can change enough minds to make a difference." "This is crazy," Deho said. "If we take her, we'll have the entire Velthoran fleet chasing us. We'll never make it back to Earth." "Admiral Soren and his loyalists will buy you time," Ariam said. "Enough to reach human space, if you move quickly." The sound of boots in the corridor was getting closer. Jiwan had seconds to make a decision that could start an interstellar war or save two civilizations. He thought about the Kreveth War, about all the times he had to make impossible choices. He thought about Ariam's smile during the unveiling, that genuine expression of hope. "Myre, contact the Resilience," he ordered. "Tell them to prep for emergency launch. Deho, get our people together and secure a route to the landing platform." "You're actually doing this?" Deho asked, incredulous. "I'm doing what we always do," Jiwan said. "Taking a desperate risk because it's the only choice that might actually work." He turned to Ariam. "Your Highness, if you come with us, there's no going back." "You understand that?" "I have never been more certain of anything," Ariam replied. "Then we run, now." The next 30 minutes were chaos. They moved through the palace using servant corridors that Admiral Soren knew by heart. Twice they had to hide while Imperial guards rushed past. Jiwan could hear shouting, orders being given, the sound of a palace in lockdown. They emerged onto a balcony overlooking the landing platform where the Resilience waited. Between them and the ship stood 20 armed guards. Behind them, more guards were flooding into the corridor they had just left. "This is it," Ariam said. "Whatever happens, thank you for trying." Jiwan activated his communicator. "Resilience, this is Captain Park. We need immediate suppression fire on our position. Non-lethal if possible." "Captain, that will be seen as an act of war," his first officer's voice came back. "We're way past." The Resilience had been running at maximum speed for 6 days. Behind them, 3 Velthoran heavy cruisers maintained pursuit, close enough to keep them on sensors, but far enough to avoid engagement. It was a strange kind of chase, like predators waiting for their prey to tire. "They're still there," Deho reported from Tactical, holding at 10,000 kilometers. Same formation, same distance. Jiwan studied the display. The Veltharan ships were faster and more powerful than the Resilience. They could have caught up and forced a confrontation days ago. That they hadn't was telling. "They're waiting for orders," Princess Ariam said from where she sat near the main view screen. She had spent most of the journey there, watching the stars, adapting to life aboard a human ship. "Chancellor Viram wants to bring me back alive, if possible. He needs me to publicly recant my actions, to declare that I was misled by humans. Otherwise, I become a martyr for the reform movement." "And if they can't take you alive?" Myra asked. Ariam's expression was calm. "Then I become a martyr anyway, just a different kind." She turned to look at Jiwan. "Either way, Chancellor Viram loses. He just doesn't realize it yet." The crew had adapted to their alien guest with surprising ease. At first, there had been tension and uncertainty, but Ariam had a way of putting people at ease. She asked questions about human culture with genuine curiosity. She helped in small ways where she could. She joined them for meals in the common area, trying human food and sharing stories about Veltharan customs. It was during one of those meals that Jiwan truly understood how different their species were. The crew had been loud, arguing about some sports team from Earth, laughing and joking in the way humans did. Ariam had watched them with wide eyes, almost afraid. "You are so chaotic," she had said quietly. "So emotional. You disagree with each other constantly, yet you remain loyal. How is that possible?" "Because we know we're not perfect," Hana had explained. "We argue because we care about getting things right, not because we hate each other. And loyalty isn't about always agreeing. It's about standing together even when you don't agree." Ariam had looked stunned, like this simple concept had never occurred to her. In Veltharan society, disagreement was seen as disloyalty. Harmony was valued above all else. No wonder they had stagnated. Now, on the 7th day of their flight, new alarms started blaring. Jiwan rushed to the bridge to find his tactical officer staring at a sensor reading with disbelief. "Unknown contact," the officer reported. "Just appeared out of nowhere. Configuration doesn't match anything in our database or Veltharan records." The view screen shifted to show the new arrival. It was unlike any ship Jiwan had seen. Geometric, crystalline, pulsing with strange energy. It was smaller than the Resilience, but somehow more threatening. "Ashran," Ariam breathed, her face going pale. "That's an Ashram probe. Just like the sensor readings we showed you. Weapon status?" Jiwan demanded. "It's charging something," Deho reported. "Energy signature is off the scale." The Ashram probe fired. A beam of coherent energy lanced out, not toward the Resilience, but toward one of the pursuing Veltharan cruisers. The alien ship's shields held for approximately 3 seconds before failing. The beam punched through the hull, and the cruiser exploded in a brief flash. "Evasive maneuvers," Jiwan shouted. "All power to shields." The probe was already moving, faster than anything that Psi should be able to move. It targeted the second Veltharan cruiser. This time, the aliens were ready, returning fire with their own weapons. The beam struck the probe's shields, which absorbed the energy and seemed to grow stronger. "It's learning from their attacks," Myra said, analyzing the data, adapting in real time. The probe destroyed the second cruiser with the same terrifying efficiency. Now only one Veltharan ship remained, along with the Resilience. The probe seemed to pause, as if calculating which target to engage next. Jiwan's mind raced. They couldn't outrun it. They couldn't fight it with conventional weapons if it could adapt that quickly. They needed something unpredictable, something the probe wouldn't expect. "How far are we from that debris field?" he asked, pointing to a cluster of asteroids on the tactical display. 300,000 kilometers, Hada reported. Why? Because we're going to do something stupid, G1 said. He opened a channel to the remaining Veltharan cruiser. Veltharan vessel, this is Captain Park. That probe is going to kill us all if we don't work together. Are you receiving? There was a pause. Then a voice responded, old and weathered. This is Admiral Soren of the Veltharan Imperial Fleet. Captain Park, you are a fugitive, and I am ordered to return the princess. And you can try, G1 said, right after we survive the next 5 minutes. I have a plan, but I need your ship to execute it. Trust me or die. Your choice, Admiral. Another pause. The probe was moving again, orienting toward the Veltharan cruiser. What do you need? Soren asked. Follow my lead and fire on my mark, G1 replied. He turned to his helmsman. Take us straight at that probe. Maximum speed. Sir? The helmsman looked at him like he had gone insane. Do it, G1 ordered. The Resilience accelerated directly toward the Ashran probe. The alien machine adjusted its trajectory to meet them. Behind them, Admiral Soren's cruiser followed, matching their course. Captain, if we hit that thing at this speed, we're dead, Deho said. We're not going to hit it, G1 replied. We're going to pass through its shield envelope at the last second, and when we do, it will drop shields to reconfigure against our trajectory. That's when you hit it with everything we have. Point-blank range. How do you know it will drop shields? Myre asked. I don't, G1 admitted. But these things learn by adapting to threats. The closer we get, the more precisely it will try to configure its defenses against us. That means dropping shields for a split second to recalibrate. It's what I would do if I were a learning machine. That's insane, Deho muttered. Welcome to humanity, Ariam said quietly, gripping her seat as the probe grew larger on the view screen. The distance closed. 5,000 kilometers. 1,000. 500. The probe's energy signature spiked as it prepared to fire. 200 kilometers. 100. Now, G1 shouted. The Resilience dove suddenly, passing below the probe with meters to spare. As G1 had gambled, the probe's shields flickered for just a moment as it recalibrated. In that moment, the Resilience and Admiral Soren's cruiser fired everything they had. The probe was hit by kinetic rounds, energy beams, and a close-range EMP burst from the Resilience's emergency systems. The machine intelligence tried to adapt, tried to compensate, but the attack was too sudden, too close, too chaotic. It exploded in a cascade of crystalline fragments. The Resilience shook from the shockwave, but held together. Behind them, Admiral Soren's cruiser emerged from the debris field, damaged but intact. The bridge was silent, except for the sound of alarms and damage reports. Then Hannah started laughing, slightly hysterical. We're alive. We actually survived. Damage report? G1 ordered, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 5. Shield generators at 40%. Engines functional but strained, Deho reported. We need repairs, but we're spaceworthy. A communication came through from Admiral Soren. When his face appeared on the view screen, the old Veltharan looked shaken. Captain Park, that was the most reckless maneuver I have seen in 300 years of service. Did it work? G1 asked. Yes, then it wasn't reckless. It was necessary. G1 leaned forward. Admiral, you just saw what we're facing. That was a probe, a scout. The real Ashran fleet will be thousands of ships like that, each one learning and adapting. Your traditional tactics won't work against them. You know it, and I know it. Soren was quiet for a long moment. I watched you fly directly at certain death without hesitation. I watched you improvise a solution in seconds that my tactical computers would have needed hours to calculate. He looked past Jiwan to where Ariam sat. "Princess, are all humans like this?" "Yes," Ariam said simply. "This is why we need them. This is why I chose to leave." The Admiral's expression shifted, some internal struggle playing out across his alien features. "Chancellor Virum ordered me to retrieve you at all costs, Princess. To brand Captain Park as a kidnapper and bring you home." He paused. "But I have served your family for 3 centuries. I was there when we lost to the Kreveth. I was there when we abandoned our people, because we were too afraid to fight like we needed to." His voice hardened with resolve. "I will not watch this empire fall because we are too proud to change. I will not follow orders that doom us all." "Admiral," Ariam said carefully, "are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I am saying I will escort you to human space," Soren declared. "I am saying I will testify before the Imperial Court about witnessed here today. I am saying that humanity is our best hope for survival, and anyone who cannot see that is a fool." He looked directly at Jiwan. "Captain Park, I formally request asylum for myself and my crew. We wish to join your cause." Jiwan felt the weight of the moment. A Veltheran admiral, a war hero with 300 years of service, was defecting. This would send shockwaves through the entire empire. "Request granted, Admiral," Jiwan said. "Welcome to the Alliance." "Alliance?" Myre asked. Jiwan gestured to the viewscreen, to the debris of the Ashram probe floating in space. "We just faux Earth Command had not been pleased. When the Resilience entered the Sol system with a Veltheran princess aboard and a defecting admiral in escort, the response had been swift and severe. Jiwan spent 3 days in debriefing sessions, answering the same questions over and over. Had he been compromised? Was this a Veltheran trick? Did he understand he might have started an interstellar war? "I understand perfectly," Jiwan had told the assembled generals and politicians. "I also understand that if we don't work with the Veltherans, we'll all be dead within 2 years. The Ashran Collective doesn't care about our politics or our pride. They will destroy us unless we stand together." Now, 2 weeks later, Jiwan stood in the Grand Assembly Hall of Earth's United Government, watching history unfold. Princess Ariam stood at the podium, her alien features displayed on screens for billions of viewers across human space. She was about to address humanity for the first time. "People of Earth," she began, her English flawless after weeks of practice with the crew. "I come before you not as a conqueror or a superior being, but as someone who needs your help. My empire, which has existed for 5,000 years, is dying. Not from war, but from our own success. We became so advanced, so comfortable, that we forgot how to truly live." She activated a holographic display showing the Ashram probe's attack, the footage captured from both ships. The assembly hall fell silent as they watched the terrifying efficiency of the machine intelligence. "This is what is coming," Ariam continued. "Not just for my people, but for yours. The Ashran Collective has destroyed 4 civilizations before us. They are patient, methodical, and utterly merciless. My people cannot stop them. Our weapons are powerful, but our thinking is rigid. We have forgotten how to adapt, how to innovate, how to fight like survival depends on it." She paused, looking directly at the cameras. "But you have not forgotten. Humanity fights every battle like it might be your last because you know it might be. You take desperate risks because you understand that sometimes the only way forward is through danger. You lost millions fighting the Kreveth, but you won because you refused to give up even when logic said you should." Admiral Soren stepped forward, his presence causing murmurs throughout the hall. A Velthera military commander, here on Earth, was unprecedented. "I have served the Veltheran Empire for 300 years, Soren said, his deep voice resonating. "I have commanded fleets in dozens of campaigns. I have studied military tactics for longer than your species has had spaceflight. He looked at the assembled humans. And in one desperate moment, Captain Park taught me more about real combat than I learned in 3 centuries. He showed me that rules and doctrine mean nothing if you are not willing to break them when necessary. The Admiral activated his own display, showing tactical analyses of the probe fight. A Velthoran commander would have maintained distance, tried to wear down the enemy with long-range weapons, retreated when outmatched. Captain Park flew directly at the threat and destroyed it in seconds. Not because he was reckless, but because he understood something we had forgotten. In war, hesitation is death. Innovation is survival. The Earth delegates were listening now, truly listening. Jiwan could see the calculations happening behind their eyes. The fear of alien contact warring with the fear of extinction. Chancellor Varm's response came the next day, broadcast across all channels. The old Velthoran appeared on screens across both civilizations, his expression furious. The humans have corrupted our princess, he declared. They have kidnapped her, filled her mind with their primitive philosophies, turned her against her own people. Princess Ariam's actions are treason. Admiral Soren's defection is betrayal. The Velthoran Empire demands their immediate return. But then something unexpected happened. Emperor Thales himself made a broadcast, and he did not look like a man supporting his chancellor. I am old, the emperor said, his star-patterned skin seeming dimmer than before. Older than any being has a right to be. I have ruled this empire for 2,000 years, and in that time, I have watched us become shadows of what we once were. My daughter saw this truth before I did. She had the courage to act when I hesitated. The emperor's next words shocked everyone. Chancellor Varum, you are removed from your position effective immediately. Your fear of change has blinded you to reality. My daughter is not corrupted. She is awake. She sees clearly what we refuse to see. The Asheron Collective is coming, and we cannot face them alone. Varum tried to respond, tried to maintain control, but the Emperor continued. I hereby announce the formation of the Velthora-Terra Alliance. Princess Ariam will serve as joint commander, working with Captain Jiwan Park to create a unified military force. All Velthoran resources will be made available for this purpose. We will learn from humanity, and they will learn from us. Together, we will face this threat. The political fallout was immediate and chaotic. On Earth, some governments celebrated while others protested. In Velthoran space, the reform movement surged while conservative factions rioted. But through it all, Jiwan and Ariam worked. They established the first joint military academy on a neutral moon between their territories. Human instructors taught Velthoran officers about adaptive tactics, rapid decision-making, and creative problem-solving. Velthoran engineers shared their advanced technology with human scientists, showing them how to build better shields, faster engines, more efficient weapons. Jiwan found himself teaching a class of young Velthoran officers who had volunteered for the program. They struggled at first. Everything humans did seemed chaotic to them, random, inefficient. But slowly, understanding dawned. You fight like you are already dead, one officer named Kira observed during a simulation. Not because you want to die, but because you have accepted that death is possible. That acceptance frees you to do anything necessary. Exactly, Jiwan confirmed. Fear of death paralyzes. Acceptance of death liberates. When you know you might die, you fight harder to live. But you also fight smarter because you know you cannot afford mistakes. Myre worked with Velthoran philosophers, helping them understand human psychology. Your people see emotions as weaknesses, she explained during one session. But emotions are what drive innovation. Anger makes us fight harder. Fear makes us cautious. Joy makes us bold. Hope makes us try impossible things. Without emotions, without the urgency that comes from knowing time is limited, you lose the fire that drives progress. Deho trained with Admiral Soren, combining human guerrilla tactics with Velthran strategic planning. The old admiral adapted faster than anyone expected, his 300 years of experience finally finding new purpose. "I have been asleep," Soren confessed one day after a particularly intense training session. "For centuries, I simply followed protocols. I stopped thinking, stopped questioning. Working with you humans is exhausting, frustrating, and terrifying. I love it." 6 months into the alliance, Princess Ariam and G1 stood together on the observation deck of the first hybrid warship. The Eternal Defiance was a marvel of combined technology. Veltharan shields and engines, human weapons and tactical systems, a crew of both species working side by side. "Do you think we can win?" Ariam asked quietly. G1 considered the question. Around them, a fleet of 300 ships waited. Half human, half Veltharan, all working together. In 6 months, they had achieved what seemed impossible. But the Ashran Collective was still coming, and intelligence suggested their fleet numbered in the thousands. "I don't know," he admitted. "We're outnumbered. They're more advanced than either of us. They learn and adapt faster than anything we've seen. By all logical calculations, we should lose." "Then why do you smile?" Ariam asked, noticing his expression. "Because humans don't fight based on logical calculations," G1 replied. "We fight based on hope, stubbornness, and the absolute refusal to give up. We've been outnumbered before. We've faced impossible odds before. And we're still here. Now we have allies who are learning to fight the same way." Ariam looked out at the combined fleet. "The mortal renaissance. That is what my father called this transformation. Immortals learning to fight like mortals. And mortals learning to think like immortals," G1 added. "Your people gave us technology that would have taken us centuries to develop. Together we're stronger than either of us alone." Alerts began sounding across the fleet. Long-range sensors had detected something. The science officers ran calculations, confirmed readings, double-checked data. Then the reports came in, and the entire fleet fell silent. The Ashran Collective had arrived early. Not in 18 months. Now. Right now. The view screen shifted to show them. Hundreds of ships, maybe thousands, emerging from dark space like a swarm of mechanical locusts. Each one was different, adapted for specific purposes. Scouts, fighters, heavy cruisers, massive carrier vessels that made even Veltharan dreadnoughts look small. "All hands to battle stations," Jiwan ordered, his voice calm despite the fear trying to claw its way up his throat. "This is not a drill. The Ashran are here." Across the fleet, crews scrambled. Human and Veltharan officers worked side by side, preparing for the fight of their lives. On the bridge of the Eternal Defiance, G1 stood next to R.